Welcome to Pros Only Sports. You're here with myself, Roland, and today we are debuting a new podcast on Pros Only Sports. It's called No Boundaries, the podcast where we explore the journeys of diaspora athletes. And today I have a very, very special guest. She is a former USC Trojan, a hometown hero of Leicester City, and a Super Falcon, a current African champion as well. And she is currently the captain of Saudi Women's Premier League side, Al Ittihad. Ashleigh Plumptre in the building. How are you
Wow,
doing, Ashley?
that
How
was a
are you?
great intro. Great intro. Wow, thank you. Yeah, no, it's great to be here. I'm excited to talk to you.
Cool. Before we get into the conversation, people, if you're listening to Pros Only Sports for the first time, make sure you're hitting the like button and subscribe button as well. Hit the notification bell for anything new that we are going to be dropping over the coming weeks. So, Ashley, how's your week been? First and foremost, let's try and do that first and see how you're doing.
Yeah, really good. Really, really good. Just getting into prep for AFCON qualifiers. We had a couple of days off, so I took a quick. This is not somebody. I'm not somebody that's like this, but I did take a quick trip to Greece with a couple of teammates. It sounds weird to say a quick trip to Greece, but it's actually not that far from Saudi. It's like 3 hour flight, so went there for a bit of a rest because we're already up and running in the season, so that was nice. And then back midweek just to continue training and prep for AFCON qualifiers that I travel to tomorrow. Literally, I go to Togo, and then from Togo we go to Nigeria.
Cool. Cool. I mean, it's always good to have a bit of relaxation time. A good breakaway is always good. A little bit of nice sun and some good food as well. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. But let's actually start from the beginning. So let's talk about your childhood, kind of like growing up in Leicester. Like, how was that for you?
hmm Yeah, so I guess I can't always claim that I'm a Leicester girl because I'm not from the city. I'm from one of like a small town outside of Leicester, but I've always been a Leicestershire girl, I'd say.
Hmm.
Always had this connection to Leicester. Um, but yeah, like I grew up in a small town called Melton Mowbray, outside of Leicester. I was just one of those, honestly, I was just one of those kids that, and I was saying this, I always say this, but like I was one of those kids that just loved playing sport. So as I grew up, when I was playing outside with my friends, it would just be like my mum saying, like, you have a ball in your hands or like at your feet. Like I just wanted to be playing some kind of sport all the time. So yeah, that was my childhood. And then I actually joined Leicester's academy at 8 years old. But up until that point, I was just a kid that just loved all sports and wanted to be involved with any kind of running, jumping, ball game, any of that. That was me all the time.
Cool. Cool. What was the football culture like in the town that you were in? Like, like
Mhm,
I'm from inner city London, so for us it was the football cages on the council estate. That was kind of my
mhm.
first introduction into football. So, what was the football culture for like for you?
Yeah, you know what? I actually grew up on an estate as well, but I grew up like it was almost like there were houses that were around a central like small field, and at the
Mhm.
time that field actually felt pretty big. But
Mm.
I go back now and it's literally just like a patch of grass. Like it's not even big at all. But that's where we would, like, there's obviously loads of kids that are around my age at the time that lived there, and everybody would gather there to play football. And there were a couple of girls that played, but I was one of few that did. Like I was basically playing with the boys on that patch of
Mm.
grass. And at the time, like I was an only child. I've got three siblings now, but they came way later. So I was an only child. I wasn't growing up playing with like my siblings, like a lot, I
Mm.
guess a lot of players do. They start playing with their brothers or something. I just was out on a patch of grass with random kids from my estate kicking the ball
Mm.
around.
It kind of sounds similar to my story, to be fair, because when I grew up, right, like literally I was the only one that was interested in football, so I'd be playing by myself pretty much on
Huh.
like a car park or some asphalt, literally outside of the council estate, which is quite interesting. Who introduced you to the game, if you don't mind me asking?
Um, like So both my parents, my mum and dad, have always been very sporty. I actually say my mum was more sporty than my dad. And my
Mm,
mum was into netball, she was into athletics, she did hockey, and she liked football, she never played. Um, but I wouldn't actually say it was necessarily my parents. I guess I think I just got into it from school.
mm,
Like I don't remember a time when I wasn't just wanting to be active.
mm,
Like I think I started playing for a team at 4 years old, like the local girls football team. So like when I first could kick a ball, I did, and it was so basically it's almost like it was just in me,
mm,
to want to be able to play. But then I would always go to, like during holidays and stuff, they do like holiday camps or
mm,
sports camps, and I'd always go to this sport one. And again, I got to play like every sport. So it was just that was something that I look forward to. So every like when there was no school, it's not like I wanted to rest. I wanted to go and be at this sports club and just play with random kids. So
mm.
I wouldn't actually say there's anyone specific. And like I said, my family are sporty, but there's nobody that was like directly influenced me, I'd say.
You mentioned school and playing for the girls team. So where did you kind of recognize quite early on that you were like a baller in school? Like you were like a level above some of the teammates.
Um, do you know what I've always such a bad answer, but I feel like I've always really struggled with confidence. So I don't
Mm,
think I ever saw myself as like I knew like on the girls team at school, like I knew I was one of the better players, but it wouldn't consciously like be in my mind that I was like
mm,
a star player because I did always struggle with confidence. And I think
mm,
when I played in school, like I'd play around the boys as well, but I actually think when I was really young, like this is when I remember playing with them in primary school, sometimes I felt like there were some boys that were really good and I felt like very inferior compared to them. But there were some boys that would play who that there's always those boys that are like big football fans, but they
mm,
just have no like athletic ability. So I knew I was like better than them, but they had like they would know everything about their team, the
mm,
players and everything, and they almost like, wanted to emulate them, but they couldn't because they didn't have any athleticism. So
mm.
I felt like I like if I mix myself amongst that group, I felt like overall I was okay. But I never saw myself as like, yeah, a star player. Only if I play with the girls, I was the one that wanted to like get stuck into tackles when some of
Mm.
them didn't.
I mean, that's quite interesting when you say that you had those kind of struggles with confidence, because when you look at yourself now, you're like the captain of your current team. You've become a champion for your nation. Like all of these different things show kind of a growth and elevation beyond that kind of low point that maybe you would have felt within your confidence. So that's really interesting to hear, and I think that's quite inspiring for younger people who may watch this in the future and say, "Yeah, I might not be confident now, but there's so much more I can achieve."
On that, like, I know this is something that I like to be able to verbalize and speak about, is because I still feel the same. I still feel like one of the people that has like I still struggle to this day with
Mm,
confidence and actually believing that sometimes that I can be good enough. Because I know
mm,
a lot of people say you have to believe in yourself. And I don't like that phrase because if everybody could believe in themselves, they would. And
mm,
it's not a choice. It's not necessarily a choice of believing this. You can tell yourself, "Oh, I'm going to be confident. Oh, I'm good at this." But if you internally you don't feel it and believe it, it's pointless just trying to tell yourself something that you're
mm,
not. So I think the power for me has actually been being aware and saying to myself like, okay, you don't feel confident and you don't feel sometimes good enough,
mm,
but don't try to change that, just be you. And that's probably why I've been able to get to the like well do the things I've been able to do now. And even now,
mm,
like I speak to my team here, and while I'm one of the leaders on the team, I am open and telling them like I am just as scared as you.
mm,
Like, and that there is a lot of power in that because then those girls feel like there's no separation between me
Mm,
and them. It's not like, and I've also had coaches that say, you've had more experience because, you've been at the World Cup, so you're not going to be as nervous as them.
mm,
Sometimes I get more nervous for a game in Saudi Arabia than I do playing at a World Cup. Like
yeah,
I can't choose when I'm going to be more nervous. It just comes, but it's just like, just drawing back to myself and being like, you know what, you'll be okay. And
yeah,
you have gifts that you might not necessarily understand, but you're just gonna give it your best, and whatever comes of that is okay. So yeah, I've always been always lacked confidence, but it's just a part of, like, you can choose. You can lack confidence and shy away from it, or you can lack confidence and still take one step foot forward and push yourself through it.
yeah. That's really good to hear. And it's quite interesting as well. When you describe it that way. Um, let's talk about some of the local teams that you may have played for. So I know that you played for Ashford B Amateurs in your
Mhm.
early days, but were there any other local teams in your area that you played for apart from that team?
You don't know, that was actually, so I joined that team, I think, yeah, when I was 4, and I
Mm,
was there literally solely just playing for them and my school, but
mm-hmm,
playing for them from a club perspective, playing for them until I was 8. Because, and then at 8, that's when I had trials for the academy at Leicester.
mm,
And actually, at that
mm-hmm,
time, even though Leicester was like, it was going to be better because it's an academy and, like, I'm playing around better players, everything. I love the club so much that I didn't want to leave, because I
yeah,
think initially, I think between 8 and 10, I could play for the academy and I could play for my grassroots
mm-hmm,
team. But I think I was probably around 10 when I had to, just like, if I was going to play for Leicester, I could only play for Leicester.
mm-hmm,
And I was like reluctant at the time because I loved my grassroots team. And I think it was just because maybe because I was a big fish in a small pond, like I loved being able to go and score goals every week, and I didn't want to
yeah,
have to put myself in a position where I'm like, oh, this is more challenging. But
yeah.
yeah, in the end, I was at Leicester, yeah, for initially from 8 and then till I was about 14, but it was just
Mm.
those teams.
Have you had a chance to go back to your amateur team to just kind of like see some faces or like just kind of inspire the young players there?
Yeah, do you know what? I haven't been back, must be over a year now. But I have been back a couple times. And what's really funny is when I was at Leicester, I was coaching while I was playing. This is when I was playing professionally for Leicester, so
Mm.
only a couple of years ago. I was coaching the under 12s girls academy team at the
Okay,
same time. And
nice.
there was some girls, like, well, there was one girl in particular that played for Asfordby, so like my old
Hmm.
team, and she played for Leicester, and I was coaching her. So I
Oh,
went to
nice.
Asfordby, and then I messaged her. I have contact for her granddad, and I messaged her granddad like, I'm actually here now, and they live local, so she actually
Mm.
came down. So I was around a player who's playing for the same team that I used to play for, but I was also coaching her at Leicester, which was also a team that I played for, which was,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really nice because obviously, like, a lot of the people at that club as well, they when I was playing there, so like I said, I was 4, so this is over 20 years ago. Some of them are still there, and now
Oh,
they're
wow.
working with the generation that I have now been able to coach. So yeah, it's really
Wow.
nice.
That's really cool. It's kind of like a full circle moment that you kind of
Yeah.
been able to reach out to the next generation, and they have somebody that they can look to and say, yeah, I can actually do this. I can actually pursue this. Let's talk about a little bit more about when you kind of knew you were gonna be who you are today. So, like, when did you know that I'm her? Like, I could pursue a football career.
I don't think I ever did. um, because I never had this dream of being a professional footballer. One, because I didn't think I'd be good enough, and two,
Mm,
because I just didn't really think it would be like a career opportunity. I don't know.
mm,
Like, I actually wanted to go, I was studying to try and go to medical school.
mm,
But it wasn't until, so I went to the US for university when I was 17, turning 18. And then it wasn't until I was 19 that, and at this point I'd changed positions. So my whole career up until I was 18, I played as a winger or a midfielder. And then at 19, I was pushed to a fullback,
mm,
and it was like obviously completely new for me, but then I loved it. And in my
mm,
last year of uni, so when I was 20, yeah, I was 20, I was put, it was the one position I didn't want to play in, but my coach was like, I really
mm,
want you to try centre back. I'm like, no, because it's like line before. Like the first thing I thought when he said to play centre back, I was like, if I make a mistake, then they're gonna score. That was the first thing that came to me. I'm like, no, no, I cannot be a centre back. But yeah, since that moment, I was like, sure, okay, I'll try it. So from yeah, I've only had what am I 7 years. So well, actually, it's quite long. But I started being a centre back at 20.
Mhm.
And then yeah, I just didn't really look back since. But I didn't when I was in the US, I didn't in my mind I wasn't going to yeah play professionally. Like I said, I at my last year I spoke with my dad and he said like you've sacrificed so much and you've done so much and worked so hard to be in this position. It would be a shame if you like didn't at least try playing
Mhm.
professionally. So he was like, just try it for a year and a half, just to say that you've done it, you know?
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, but then the only team I want to play for is a team that I like really value and the community I value, which was Leicester because it was my home.
Mhm.
So I had some opportunities to like, I had opportunities from WSL clubs, I had
Mhm.
some from NWSL in terms of going into the draft out there. But I was like, no, Dad, I only want to play at Leicester. And they
Mhm.
were in the championship at the time. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna sign for a year and a half. I joined literally like I joined and then we got promoted my first season and there was COVID and
Mhm.
everything. And then yeah, since then I thought I'd be playing for a year and a half just to do it and then I'd move on to a different career. And now what, like 6 years later, I'm still playing and now I'm in Saudi Arabia and playing for Nigeria. So it's yeah, it's still crazy for me to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's an amazing rise. I mean like that feeling of being like a hometown hero, like you're like one of few athletes that have actually, been born in a certain place and played for the team that they from the city that they're from.
Mm.
And like one of them that comes to mind is like LeBron James. LeBron James played for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He was born in Cleveland, Ohio. Like it's Akron, Ohio. But like yeah, it's kind of crazy. So you're kind of part of an exclusive list of people that play for their hometown team. Um, just going back to your time at USC. So you gained a degree in human biology, as you said you were trying to move into the medical field. How was that experience competing as a collegiate athlete? Because it's very different, obviously, to what happens over here in the UK, where people will play for their university team, but there's no natural progression into professional sport. So how does that work in the US?
Yeah, I mean, I had a real draw to the US from when I was like 13, 14 years old, and just because I very much identified with the culture of the place. Like even at collegiate level, it's in most cases like it's more professional than some professional environments in women's football specifically, but in other sports as well. So I got to go there and be able to get the best of both worlds. I cared a lot about getting a good education. I was going into an I was going to an institution that was highly ranked in the US in terms of yeah, academic how it's seen academically. But I was also going to a good football like that. I think we were maybe within the top 25 schools in the nation when I joined. I could be wrong, but it was something like that. So yeah, USC was the name of my school. So I was in California in LA, and yeah, I was going there. Everything was so structured. Like I had a training block from 7 to 11 a.m. in the morning, and then as soon as like 11, well, we normally finish around 10:30, and then classes would start from 11, and you'd pick your classes and you'd could have them from 11 until pretty like 9 p.m. at night. Some of them finish. So yeah, I learned discipline and structure very early because obviously I went there by myself and I had some family that lived like an hour away, but most of the time I'm on campus, like I'm living on
Yeah.
campus. I'm getting accustomed to a completely different lifestyle. And it really encouraged me to like, I mean, I can't even say grow up quickly necessarily because I I feel like even before that, like the kind of training I used to do, I was very structured with my own education back home. Like I always say, like I said this on a recent podcast, how like my parents had to do the opposite. You know, like most parents are like, you need to do your homework and you need to
Yeah.
train, and like my parents were like, you need to relax. You need to have a day off. You need to like let yourself breathe now. Like I just had it in me just to work hard, I guess.
Yeah.
And not to say that was always really healthy, but at the time I wouldn't have changed it because it got me to that position to be able to get a scholarship and
Mhm.
experience what I did in the US. But yeah, I think, like I always say, I was kind of, before I went to the US, I was kind of falling out of love with football a little bit. But
Mhm.
the US experience was what like reignited me for my love for football and just having like life experience, being away from family, having to like figure out myself, my own
Mhm.
opinions on things, like the beliefs I once held before that weren't really my own, but I didn't know until I was forced to be by myself and deal with
Yeah.
different situations alone. So it was huge for me, not just football wise or educationally, it just me as a person. And
Yeah.
I think that's what's ultimately kept me in football because I've been able to make decisions within football now that aren't necessarily what people would expect me to do, but they align with me. And that journey started when I was in the US when I could figure out really who I was.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good to hear. I mean, like I definitely like echo that sentiment. Like, you know, when you get to that stage where it's time for maybe higher education for our young people, I do encourage them to, you know, go and live in a different place, because I
Yeah.
did that. And you know, by yourself you have the opportunity to understand, like you said, who you are. You get to have different experiences, and it can really shape you as a human being, like as you enter into adulthood. So I mean, it's really good that, you know, whilst you were able to, you know, pursue, you know, the collegiate career, you know, you had your education as well to back you up, and then it gave you the freedom of thought to be able to kind of now pursue the career that you're into now. Talk a little bit about your culture and identity. So, I mean, there's images that I've seen of you in your childhood wearing a Kocha Nigeria jersey. Talk to us a bit about the heritage on your dad's side.
Yeah, so this is something that like I was able to like get glimpses of it through meeting different family members who lived in the UK. So growing up, I never visited Nigeria. I didn't visit Nigeria until I started playing for the Super Falcons, and that was in officially my first game was the start of 2022.
Mhm.
So up until that point, I'd only had like the influence of like my dad, who actually is like he grew up very British, so I didn't have
Mhm.
so much influence from him. But my
Mhm.
granddad, so my dad's dad, who lived near us, he only lived like 25 minutes away.
Mhm.
He grew up in Nigeria, and then
Mhm.
he left Nigeria when he was like 19. He came to the UK for
Mhm.
school and stuff. But he obviously growing up in Nigeria, he's very, very, very Nigerian. I don't even know how to, like when I say very Nigerian, I just mean in everything, like culturally, his behaviors, how he speaks, just like going to his little apartment, it's like he's just taken a part of like Nigeria, just plopped it into the middle of the UK. Like they even had like I remember growing up and going to his apartment, and he would have like these big and I actually this is probably where my phobia came from. He had these huge African snails in a glass box. Oh, God, they were awful. He always asked me like, "You want to hold one?" I'm like, I can barely even look at it. Never mind, hold it. Oh God. But yeah, like I had most of my influence came through my granddad because I saw him the most.
Yeah.
And then I had other relatives on my dad's side, but they lived in London and we didn't go
Mhm.
like because obviously being from the Midlands, we didn't go down to London a lot unless it was like for a specific reason, you know.
Yeah.
We went to a couple of like events, like I've seen some of my family down there, but then we'd go to like every so often. I've probably been to like two or three like birthday parties or like Nigerian birthday parties. So I
Mhm.
was so
Yeah. Yeah.
young, so I wasn't really aware. And I also think
Mhm.
like they'd have Nigerian food that I just wouldn't eat because I'd not been brought up on it. I had no
Mhm.
curiosity towards it either.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and at this point, I was like an only child because I have three siblings. I've
Mhm.
got two brothers on my mum's side. We've got the same mum, different dad, and then I've got one sister, same dad, different mum. So
Mhm.
it wasn't until like my siblings came around that I started to go into my identity even more, and specifically on my Nigerian side, it was when my sister came around and she was young, like 10. She's only yeah, she's 15 now. But she would start asking questions about our heritage that I never really had to go into before. And I was curious, but not as curious as her. So we went on a journey of like trying to understand our heritage. Like I said, her more so than me, but she was educating me because she would speak to my grand, like she would call my granddad and try and learn like Yoruba words, like just a few basic things just to be able to greet people and stuff. And then through her and my like her sharing her experiences in school, how she feels like connected to the culture and wanting to learn more about it. I was like, this is important for me to know, not just for myself, but for her as well. And then I, separate from her, like she triggered it for me, but then I was like even more curious and I started to again like understand more about there's parts of me that I couldn't necessarily attribute to being very British, I'll be honest. And I was like, well, I wonder what that is. It might not be anything. I don't have to necessarily attach it to a nationality. But then joining the national team, I realized like there are parts of me that have this like Nigerian drive. Like I have this like passion and like deep connection to something bigger. And I
Yeah.
think that I've noticed that that is something that like alongside my other like Super Falcon teammates, we all share together. Like it's like this real innate passion within us and to work hard, to be grateful, to just enjoy the simple things. And yeah, it's really hard to put into words, but then I started to realize all this when I joined the team, and now I feel more connected to the culture, even though it's not something I've been brought up in or learned so much about, but I feel more connected to it than yeah, like it's been a journey. Like when I first joined to now, for the last however many years, I've just slowly got more and more connected to the culture, and I now have this excitement in going back to Nigeria in a few days to be around part of me again. If
Yeah,
that makes
yeah.
sense.
No, it definitely makes sense. I mean, I think it was quite interesting. I had a short conversation with your father before we kind of locked this in, and he mentioned that you had this kind of, I guess, like burning desire within yourself, like as you were growing up, to learn more and more about your culture. And I think it's also interesting that your sister being one of the main influences, your younger sister being one of the main influences for you to actually go down this journey, right? Because it just kind of speaks to the fact that we can have an influence from somebody else to help push us in that direction, and explore more about our culture and heritage. So, as that was happening, you'd represented England at the youth levels.
Hmm.
So, as you were exploring your heritage, did that drive your decision to represent Nigeria at full international level? Like, how did that decision come about in a sense?
Yeah, so it was actually the time during COVID where obviously everybody had way more time, and I was spending a lot of time at home. Like I stayed at my dad's house, so I was around my sister a lot. And we had many conversations, and very like she spoke to me about things that I didn't know that she'd experienced, and things that were very personal to her. So like for Bailey, my sister, we look quite some people, it's weird because some people say we look very similar, some people say we don't look alike at all. But from like anybody just looking at us, she's like darker skinned than me. She has like beautiful like textured hair, like more like curls, like tight coiled curls, which I don't have. And she grew up in, like, well, obviously I said I grew up in Leicester, and I grew up in a small town outside of Leicester, but she's grown up in a small village outside of Nottingham, and she's gone to a local like primary school where she's one of two mixed race black kids in her class. So with that, and this is something where like she's talking about her experiences being so young about experiencing being mixed race in a pretty much all white school predominantly. And I'm hearing these things that I can only empathize with from a distance, because it's not something like she's my sister, so obviously I can feel things, but I can never say, Like, I understand, because I don't. Most people look at me and they've just assumed that I'm white. Like, I have to,
Mm,
when I tell people I'm mixed race, they're like surprised. And if I do tell them I'm mixed race, they'll just think I'm like, I get Portuguese or so. Like, I don't get
mm,
African.
mm,
It's the one thing I don't
mm,
get is African. Um, so yeah, we spent some really quality time together, and she opened up to me about things that had actually, it's quite unfortunate because in a way she'd been drawn to wanting to know about our heritage through the way that other people were treating her. So she
mm,
almost wanted to almost take hold of the narrative and empower herself so that people couldn't make her feel a certain way about it.
mm,
Like, she always used to tell me that she she now, I'm pretty sure, like, recently she identifies as being like mixed race if she was to put herself categorically. But when she was younger, she would identify as being black, and the only reason she identified as being black is because the way that people identified her or treated
mm,
her.
mm,
So this has been while it's been a journey for me of understanding, I think for her it's like it's been the same thing. Like, who is she? Like, separate from the noise or what people said to her or treated her as. What does she feel in herself? You
mm,
know, and it's been very, very powerful now to see her go through that journey, which unfortunately she's had to go through very young, but
mm,
and it's made her had to grow up pretty quickly. But
mm.
she has a great sense of identity now. But I'll be honest, like, her sense of identity was there was a lot of confusion in so many different areas for her, and that's just because of what she'd been put through.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that's quite, like unfortunate in a sense, like, having to go through certain experiences that may be negative surrounding race. And that's really based on the environment that you're, growing up in and you're having to live through every single day. But the shining light out of that is, it gave her an opportunity to really explore her heritage, understand
Mm,
who she is at the core, and it's going to be something that when she as she becomes an adult, and whatever she does with her life in that regard, she'll be able to pass that on to another generation, at some point, and then for yourself, like it's learning about that experience through her, because
yeah.
even you may have had to experience it, and you may experience it as well as you go through life, and so having to navigate through that as well, that's very powerful. Thank you for sharing.
Mm.
In terms of touching down in Nigeria for the first time, how was that experience? So I remember when I went to Ghana. My parents are from Ghana. I went to Ghana when I was 6 years old for the first time, or 5, 6 years old, in like 1998, 1999. And the first time that I touched down in Ghana, like we landed in the airport at night, come off the plane, and the heat hit me in the face. That was my first experience of touching down in Ghana. I loved it when I was there for the first time, and I've been back a few times since. So, how was that first experience for you when you touched down in Nigeria?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what? When I first went, I was like, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't
Mhm,
expect, like, I didn't know necessarily like what it would look like, what everybody would be like, how people would look at me.
mm,
Like, I had no idea. So I kind of went in, and it's a good sense because I like went in with like no expectation. I'm like, I'm just gonna be here and absorb it all.
mm,
So yeah, I landed. I remember like messaging our general manager, like, now what? Like, is there gonna be a taxi picking me up? Do I have to get a taxi? Where are we staying? I was just like, what is happening? To be fair, my dad was very big on this because my dad was like very nervous for me to go. So he
mm,
was like trying to keep in contact with like he's really like, and he's so direct. Like, he was like messaging some people at the federation, just being like, she's gonna land, she needs to know who's picking her up, I have to know this information before she lands. So like, I felt protected in that sense because obviously I'm just going thinking, I don't know what's happening. But yeah, I landed, and I remember getting in the taxi, I think, and all the flights there are like in the middle of the night, so I was so tired, but I really wanted to be awake to see this
mm,
journey to the hotel. And my first camp, it was in Abuja, because yeah, I didn't go to Lagos until quite a while after. And Abuja is calmer. let's see, yeah, calmer than Lagos. So I
Mm,
get in the taxi and we're driving on this like pretty much like a big motorway for a long time.
mm.
And I just remember it like just seeing people, well, first running across the road, which was crazy, which is something I'm now familiar with because in Saudi Arabia they do the same thing. So people running across the road, people just stood on the side of the road. A lot of random animals. I remember like at one point I was asleep at one point and then the taxi driver had to like just pulled up on the side of the motorway. I'm sure at one point just to wee. I'm sure that's what he's doing. I'm like, don't ask questions, Ash, just go back to sleep. And then we get closer to like the city and obviously like people are not driving in lanes, they're just kind of going up
Just doing
onto
their
the
own
side
thing.
of the road.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
just chaos, but like chaos that is just normal to them. So there's no like there's it's like chaos but peaceful in the same time. It's really hard to because it's like for us, like in the UK, if people are driving crazily, we're like we get all up in arms about it, you know. But for
Yeah,
them, it's just normal. So there is no what makes chaos is people reacting to it, and nobody was
yeah.
reacting. But everybody's honking their horn, but nobody's listening. So it doesn't really matter. Um, yeah, and then I got to the hotel and yeah, I met all the girls, just getting familiar with. And there's a certain smell in Nigeria. Like there's always this smell of like. So you remember the heat. I remember this smell of like almost like petroleum. Like everything smells like some kind of oil from a car, like a leaking car, or from that is the smell I get from being in Nigeria. I don't know, I don't know why, but yeah, sights and smells of Nigeria.
Oh, that's quite interesting. I mean, yeah, like I mean, it's true. When like driving in Accra, like when I've been there like several times in Ghana, it's crazy. There are no rules
Yeah.
except for on like major roads where like like the roads are very well paved and the traffic lights are working and stuff like that. Fine. But everywhere else, it's kind of a free for all, and you just kind of have to just deal with it, or whatever comes on that day. So I mean, I totally understand. Now, let's talk about food because I remember you speaking about moi moi being your favorite traditional dish.
Yeah.
Now, have there been any more favorites that you've added to the list since that discovery of moi moi? Like have you tried anything else? Some egusi, some
Yeah, I was
ogbono soup.
just about to say,
You know,
yeah, I so all the girls know me. I have a very every time I go to Nigeria, I get a bad stomach every time. So now the girls are like, be careful what you eat. Like they're giving me like bread or whatever. But I really like the pepper soup, which is actually really hot.
mm,
But I really like the taste of it, but my stomach just doesn't like it. A
mm,
goosey, I'm sorry. That is just like something that my palate cannot get accustomed to. The smell and the taste, I just can't. And I wish, and I know so many Nigerians get upset with me, but I'm like, part of me is British as well. So that's almost like my bland British taste buds coming in, being like, I
yeah,
just can't. But I love moi moi. I've not had like, my auntie would always make this like fish soup, like with tilapia. I can't,
mm,
like sometimes you have family members that can make their own thing that is
yeah,
just
yeah,
so good. Like, oh my gosh, it was so nice. But no, I normally, like when we were AFCON a couple of times, like there's, like Nigerian embassies in every country or whatever. And there
mm,
was, I think it was the embassy in Morocco when they would bring us, so like we had to send in our orders and they'll bring us some, like cook for
mm,
us, make Nigerian food. Um, and I was always I really like goat meat, to be honest. So I would get
mm,
like jollof, goat meat or chicken, and
yeah,
plantain. And it was just like
yeah.
the safest. Even then, sometimes my stomach would be bad, but I'm like, it's the safest thing for me and it's nice. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still a little bit boring, but yeah, I'll try. I'm gonna keep trying, pushing
Yeah,
through.
keep trying. I think your stomach will begin to adjust a little bit more as you take in more food. But no, it's good to hear that you're at least trying different types of food because our cuisine, across Africa is amazing.
Right.
So it's good to hear that. What about music? Like, have you immersed yourself more into Afro beats? Because I remember you kind of speaking about Kid before. But have you immersed yourself more into Afrobeats? I mean, it's all on our phones now, so I'm sure you have.
Hmm.
But any new
Yeah.
artists that you've been taking in?
Um, Honestly, I have a very, I don't know, enjoyable selection based on, because every time I'm on camp,
Mm,
like Afrobeats is playing all the time. Like our goalkeeper,
mm,
Chiamaka, she's in charge of the speaker, and she, whether we're going to training, going to matches, and even like warm-ups and training, she's playing Afrobeats pretty much all the time.
mm.
So I'm like, I'm familiar with a lot of the songs, but there's some that I might not know, and I'm like shazamming in the corner because I don't want people to know, like, there's some Afrobeat songs that she doesn't know. And I've created my own playlist. But I've got to say, like, yes, I've become way more like Burna Boy was always probably my favorite, I'd say. But I've been way more into Wizkid just because there's a girl on my team
Mm,
here in Saudi Arabia who I also play with on the national team, Franny.
mm,
And she is like obsessed with Wizkid. So I've had a couple car journeys with her, and I'm like, but I'm asking her why are you so obsessed? Like for what reason, And then she started speaking about like his journey as a musician, and this is where I get intrigued because I'm I love music, but I love to know like the story behind lyrics or
mm,
what the experience to make that form of art. I'm
mm,
fascinated by. So because she's like obsessed, she was telling me everything, and now I have this real like I feel like connection to Kid that's probably come
mm.
through her and her telling me like this album came from this experience, this and yeah. Now I feel like maybe I'm more of a I don't know how I can say fan, but I'm the most popular, almost played artist Afrobeat wise for me now is Wizkid for sure.
Yeah, let's see if that if he pops up into your Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year.
Yes.
um, let's talk about now kind of like navigating the system. So when you switched allegiance over to Nigeria, did you ever get backlash from England fans for switching allegiances? Because obviously you represented them at youth level. So
Mm, do you know what? I don't think I really did from England fans. I
mm,
think because at this point, like I'd not been with the senior team. I
mm,
had one camp when I was maybe like 19, maybe younger, with the under 23s. So I wasn't like I don't know, I in my eyes I've never been like a household name in like England football. I've represented
mm,
like every youth age group, but I didn't really get uh I don't think to be honest, I might have, but I just didn't read any of the comments, so
mm,
I don't know. I don't know, but overall, no, not really. Even like I had some family members that questioned me about it, but like they'd be like, "What?" Especially my England family, because obviously my dad is Nigerian and British, but my mum is
mm,
solely British.
mm,
Um, so I did have some questions like, why? Because they
mm,
don't understand why. Like I don't. Like, some of my family members, I don't speak about Nigeria. I didn't speak about Nigeria so much, so they'd be like,
mm.
"Why would you want to do this?" And then I could have those conversations, and then they'd understand. But otherwise, no, I don't think I did. Like I said, I don't know what people might have said that I've not seen, but I
Yeah.
didn't feel it so much.
I think that's quite interesting when you say that, because maybe at the time no, but like then like now with like the achievements that you've made with the Nigerian national team, there's gonna be a lot of people that now look at you and say, well, she's doing this for Nigeria, and obviously you played England at the World Cup as well, so like
Yeah,
there would have been a spotlight there of you in British media, like people would have got to know you a lot more, right? Because you were playing for Leicester as well, so you were in England too at the time, so like
yeah.
it's quite interesting you say that nobody there wasn't. Oh, I mean, maybe you didn't see it, but I'm sure there would have been people that would have been quite confused and been like, she should be playing for in our setup and things like that. But that's quite interesting that you say that.
Mm. I
Quite
think
interesting you say
that only came a little bit after playing England at the World Cup
that. Mm,
because I haven't like watched the full game back or whatever, but I know like when that game was played, especially in the UK, they would have been like people saying, "Oh, Ashley used to play for England. She's, born
mm,
and raised in England and now she's playing for Nigeria." And that, to be honest, was probably one of the best games I've ever played. So,
mm.
like, I think maybe people maybe would have been like, "Oh, she's." I don't know, like, I don't know, but maybe like, did we let her go when maybe we shouldn't or something? But I also believe that like I'm only able to be at this level because of the choices that I've made. Because
Mm,
maybe if I chose to try and stay in the England setup, I may not have been able to perform and may not have even
mm,
been picked.
mm.
I might not have been at the level I was anyway because like you just never know. So I just don't
Yeah.
think for me there's not like I never, because people say, do you have any regrets? And when they say that, I'm like, you're not listening to the reason that I joined Nigeria in the first place. Like it's not about
Mm,
me just wanting to play for one of the best national teams. It's what I've been able to discover about myself
mm,
that's held deeper within me than anything else. Like
yeah.
even obviously winning AFCON was huge, but it was never, when I joined the national team, it was not one of my aims to win AFCON and
Mm,
play the World Cup. It was never even in my mind.
mm,
But obviously then when you're in the team and you're getting these experiences, and obviously I'm a very naturally very competitive person. Obviously I want to achieve things with them, but it was not like they were set goals of mine from years ago. It's just kind of come through following my own path, I guess.
yeah, I mean that's quite it's quite interesting when you put it like that. And to be honest, I mean I've already seen the Nigerian fans love you and they love the fact that you switched allegiances. So I mean I'm sure you're getting a lot of love, and that's kind of confirmed any decision that you made all those years ago. Um, This is an interesting point that I wanted to maybe kind of discuss with you. So, with you kind of being white passing and playing for Nigeria in your early years, playing for the national team, were maybe your opponents kind of maybe confused about your presence on the pitch? Like, were there like kind of like looks and like like a bit of confusion because they wouldn't know your heritage or your background? So did you ever experience that?
They knew when I hit them. It's a good question. I don't know. I've never felt that actually. No,
Mm,
from any. Sure, I know. How could they not? Like, they'd be like, oh, like I stand out, obviously, just
mm,
from looking different. But no, nobody's ever really like questioned me on it or asked any questions.
mm,
But like I said, I feel like I probably play Nigerian, I guess, if
mm.
that's a thing. Like I'm physical as a player anyway.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think I don't know, no one's ever said anything to me, but I'm sure people have muttered things to one another under their breath. But yeah,
Yeah,
they
because
don't they don't question when I'm shoulder
when you put
barging them.
yeah, when you're putting in a tackle. And like just on that now, like you say, you play with a level of physicality, right? So so then what you're saying is it didn't really take you much time to adjust to the style of African football because it does have an element of physicality, athleticism that is different to the European style. I mean, just from watching WAFCON, you see that on the pitch. So did it take you some time, or were you very comfortable early doors?
I think it kind of did suit me because I like to run and I like to be physical. But I also do have this part of my game that is I love the uh I like the tactical and technical part of the game. So I
Mm,
still do like to play nice football, whatever that means. Nice football at the same time. Like I like to possess the ball. I like to connect with
mm,
people. Um and especially like with the national team, I've played out of position more than I've played
mm,
in my position. So I'm normally playing as a fullback, which is I'm normally a centre back. So
yeah.
I get this like freedom where I can run and I am a runner naturally anyway. I
Mm,
like to be going up and down the field. But I think the hardest thing to adjust to was like because there's part of my mind that is quite tactical. Sometimes I've played some African teams where it is so transitional and you don't know what
mm,
they're going to do
mm,
that is hard. Like you are reacting to things like this, and that took me some time. I've been caught out a couple of times with that, I'll be honest,
mm,
because all of a sudden like they've got the ball, actually they haven't even had the ball in their possession, it's just come to them and they've just kicked it and now somebody's run behind my shoulder. So
yeah.
you have to almost be like prepared for anything.
Mm,
And that's actually helped me a little bit because I've had to be so proactive all the time. And I've had to be like that. Same as Saudi Arabia, I have to be like that as well, because
mm,
sometimes we're playing teams that don't have, like when I was in the WSL and we play like, you know what you're going to get from Man City, even if they're
mhm,
so, like they can be so good it's hard to stop it. But you can play Man City and they have a style of play
mhm,
that I might just be shuffling like this for a long time because they'll be possessing the ball. But
mm,
in African football, it could be like, boom. And now I'm
mhm.
having to run backwards
I'm
and
back. Yeah,
yeah. And sometimes we
yeah,
can't even possess the ball that much either, because you have teams that are just pressing you everywhere, trying to hit
mm,
you. And it's like, well, you almost, not that you have to play their game, but you have to be more direct because it's the only way.
mm, mm. That's really interesting, and that like you've had to adapt to the style of play in Africa in order to be successful. And it's quite remarkable as well. Like somebody, who's, you haven't really had any experience, and then boom, they just drop you right into it. In your early 20s, and now you've been able to gain a level of experience within African football, and you're understanding the different elements to the style of play for various teams and your opponents when you play them. So that's pretty interesting. Um, how difficult, or was it difficult for the transition becoming a Nigerian international, especially in the early days? Like, when you were playing for Leicester and then you'd have to go for international duty for Nigeria and then having to come back to England to resume. Like, was that transition maybe a bit difficult for you in the early days?
Um, yeah, I mean, when I first was like going to Nigeria, it was really like, it was hard. And
Mm,
only because I've not been used to going to Nigeria. Like I said, just even the simple thing of like the food, like I'm just not used to it.
mm,
Like I've been and I've had salmonella from traveling to Africa. I've had gastroenteritis like I've really suffered with like some really tough bouts of sickness from going, and then I have to come back and
mm,
be ready to play in the WSL. I mean, the time when I got salmonella, I was out. I missed games with Leicester for over 2 weeks. Like I
mm,
couldn't leave my house. I was so sick. And that obviously made me worried to go back sometimes. And my
mm,
dad even said, he was like, Ash, like I'd come back sometimes and I'd lose so much weight.
mm,
um, and I was like, you still want to put yourself through that? I said, yeah. And I didn't know how to describe it. I just like, one, I will get accustomed and I'll learn to be a bit more selective with what I eat and
mm,
everything. But like I have a real draw in being there. There's a purpose, and a purpose that I might not ever fully understand, but that I feel connected to and want to be a part of, no matter how much I put my body through. Like, sure,
mm,
sometimes like I've missed some camps because of a niggle that I know, that like an injury niggle that I know
mm.
if I go to Africa I'm going to make it worse, whether
Yep.
it's, I don't have my normal access to rehab and stuff that I need to
Mm,
have to be able to look after my body. So sometimes I've had to miss camps because of that. And I've had
mm,
many people, to be honest, question me on that before, like fans.
mm,
They're like, she's missing this camp. Is it just because she doesn't want to have to go? And I never
mm,
reply to those messages, but it's just because like they don't understand, like, to really like look after your body and be ready to play international football in those conditions. It's hard,
mm,
so like you have to prioritize your health first to be in the best
mm.
position to then be able to play those games.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point, because the reason why I asked that question is that that transition would be quite difficult, because if you were, let's say, playing for England, you're home, so you don't have to travel too much, and you
Yeah.
have access to, like you said, all of the facilities that you need. In Africa, it's a little bit different. We don't have certain infrastructures set up in a particular type of way, so you will miss some of those elements that you may need, and it might be an interesting point for the future of African football to continue to invest in facilities and infrastructure, so that players don't have maybe difficult transitions if they're moving or switching allegiances into the current system. But
Yeah.
that's very great to hear, and thank you for sharing. Let's move on to some pivotal moments as we're coming towards the end of the podcast. So, can you describe a story of a pivotal moment in your career?
When I had my surgery last year,
Mm,
I had surgery on my like Achilles.
Mm.
And before this, like even when I went to the World Cup injured, and I told myself I would never put myself through that again. And my dream was always to go to the Olympics. So I missed out on the Olympics last year because I ended up having my surgery. But I said to myself after the World Cup, I would not do that again, no matter whether it was a dream of mine or not, which the Olympics was, because I was playing for 2.5 years in a lot of pain, taking a lot of medication that was not good for me, just to be able to play football. In the end, it got to the point where I was just trying, it was a relief to get through training
Mm.
because and then I wasn't really enjoying it because I was just trying to get through, and I was like, what am I doing? So yeah, luckily I've been supported so well by my club out here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was supported in getting my surgery, amazing rehab in Qatar, and in that time I had a lot of time to myself to that obviously I was trying my best to get back for the Olympics. I just wasn't ready. And I had a lot of time to myself to again realize like within football and away from football who I was,
Mm.
and the lessons I learned about myself and playing and what I will and won't do ever again. And yeah, it just like now I'm in a position where I can feel so grateful just that I'm still playing, because just over
Mm-hmm.
a year ago I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Even after my surgery, I was like recovering, but I was still feeling like a similar pain to what I felt before. I'm like, there's no
Mm-hmm.
way I'm going to put myself through that again. And it's still something that I have to maintain now. It's a maintenance thing, but like, I'm so grateful just to be able to go out and play. So, like, sure, I'm
Mm.
competitive, but like, sometimes if I lose a game, I can be upset in the moment. But then I'm like, I have this perspective of like, I'm still get to be out here playing as my job. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was huge for me. Going through an injury like that and then being able to recover from it is, yeah, it was huge.
Well, we're all thankful for you recovering and being able to captain your side, Al Ittihad in Saudi Arabia for this season so far. Are you is there aim now to really push for that Olympics in LA in 3 years time? Is that one thing that you need to tick off that bucket list?
You know, I'm somebody that's never really had like dreams. It sounds really sad, but it actually I like it because I'm very present. So, and a lot of things where I can think ahead, they just haven't happened, and it's been almost like
Mm.
pointless to have to think about. But since I was a kid, like when I was in school, I always used to say that I never thought I could go to the Olympics as an athlete.
Mm.
So when I was younger, I said I would love to go to the Olympics as like a team doctor for like, because I
Mm.
thought like maybe I can get to medical school and be a doctor for an Olympic team.
Mm.
So like now being a player, knowing that I had the potential to be an Olympian is just, I don't know, because like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I'm a lover of sport, not just football. I
Mm.
love sport. So that's why the Olympics for me was bigger than the World Cup.
Mm.
And yeah, I it's definitely in the back of my mind, and this the fact that it's in LA where LA was a place that
Mm.
reignited my love for football. It just like all kind of like makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm not like holding my hopes on it, but I would love, of course, I would love to be representing Nigeria in LA at the Olympics. Like, yeah. Oh,
I mean, even you talking about it right now is like I'm rooting for you. I hope you make it there. Like I really do. The reason why is because like that story would be absolutely crazy to be
yeah.
able to go back to where it basically started for you
Yeah.
and represent Nigeria in the Olympics. You become an Olympian for the first time, like, and potentially an opportunity at the medals too. Like because you'll be part of the
Yeah.
stronger teams there. Like I'm praying and I'm hoping that you actually get there. Honestly, I'm
Thank
praying and
you.
hoping you actually get there. And to wrap up the conversation, let's talk about legacy. Kind of all after all you've achieved, like as I said, like you're an African champion. You played for your hometown team. You've been able to achieve a degree at USC, one of the top universities in the United States. You're helping to grow the women's game in Saudi Arabia right now with Al Ittihad. Like, what else would you like to achieve? Like, what's next? Like, what's on that bucket list? What else do you want to tick off?
I I want to have my own foundation, something that lives beyond my footballing career
Mm,
and that encourages young people in different places. Like, I'd love something in Nigeria, something in the UK, something in the Middle East, like in
mm,
Saudi, that encourages young people to feel like following their own path and being true to themselves is like the most fulfilling thing we could ever do.
mm,
And that can come through like encouraging them to find a hobby that they enjoy and learning about themselves through that hobby. So like for me, it wouldn't football was the thing for me, but
yeah.
like I find any form of like expression, like whether it's
Mm,
art or music or dance or theater
mm,
or, you know, even having an interest in like reading or
mm,
whatever, like I just think there's so much power in like allowing ourselves to like care about something and learn about ourselves through that thing. And it's not, it doesn't
mhm,
have to be something that we're necessarily quote unquote good at. It's just something that we like or enjoy or
mhm,
is something that's connected to us. And I hope that through doing that, people can feel connected to themselves and to others more.
mhm,
So like that would probably be the basis of my this is all like in the air right now, but this is what I'm trying to work on now, like while I'm
mhm,
playing. Kind of like behind the scenes of getting something like that set up and like the message I like to get out in terms of like who I am and what I care about. I kind of want that to be like the values and mission of this foundation. And literally it just comes back to like being yourself and connecting to yourself and other people through that and
mhm.
experiencing as much as you can through that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I just found like there's a lot of power in that. So, hopefully, that would be my legacy. Not necessarily like anything to achieve. Like, I don't feel like I have a lot to achieve. It's just bringing, just hoping people can be them and connecting to them and like I don't know, we're all in support of one another. We're all I always say, like at our core, all of us as people, we're all the same. We all have
Mm,
different gifts and everything, but we all I was saying this earlier, like we all want to be valued, we all want to be supported, we all want to feel a purpose in some sense, to feel passionate about something. Um yeah. There's a lot that comes from that, I guess.
that's really inspiring. And I think manifestation is powerful. So I mean, you saying this and you putting this out in the open, it will come to fruition one day. Um, and lastly, do you have any words of advice for specifically for young girls out there who are currently pursuing or want to play the game? Any words of advice for them?
Um you're not always going to feel good enough. You're not always going to feel confident. You're not always going to feel like you can whatever succeed is, but you might not always feel like you can succeed. But actually pushing yourself through those boundaries and making yourself feel uncomfortable can actually put you in a position to learn more about yourself and feel levels of fulfillment that you probably didn't expect to ever feel. Like I really believe in the power of like making yourself uncomfortable when you're on a path that you choose that is like aligns with you. So it might be scary and you might feel terrified, but that's probably because you're meant to. So don't run away at that point. Don't run. Walk towards.
Thank you for that. We really appreciate that message. And we come to the close of the podcast, so I want to say thank you very much to Ashleigh for joining me this morning, afternoon. And good luck for the rest of the season, and good luck in the qualifiers that are upcoming with Nigeria.
Thank you. No, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And for everybody out there on Pros Only Sports, make sure you're hitting the like button and subscribe button as well. If you're new, hit the notification bell for any new content that we'll be dropping live over the next few weeks. We appreciate the support so far, and we are out. Peace.